Hey there. Welcome to the Banter. My name is Lucas,
My name's Greg.
and I'm here with Greg, and we are, because of the brand new third time's a charm uh,
We hope so.
lockdown in Ontario. We are both in our own homes, and that is great. We're so excited that we have the tech to still have the banter and have this video podcast. So, Greg, it's super cool that we get to hang out together.
Yep, love it. Even though we're not in the same room, we can still see each other's smiling faces.
That's right.
Sweet. Yeah.
For those of you who are watching live, it's so good that you're here. If you are here, I can see the chat room both on Facebook and on YouTube. So say hi, and we'd love to interact with you a little bit there. If you have some questions about the content that we've been digging into a little bit on Sunday mornings, we just started a new series called contend, and it's about fighting through the book of Jude. And so if you missed that, you can check. There's a link in the description to that message and all of our messages on our in the archive, kind of like every message we've ever done. And we would love to interact with questions that you have about kind of what we're talking about as a church family. That's what the banter is all about. It's a video we stream on Tuesdays, like we are right now. And then it's also available as a podcast after. And of course, the videos are archived on YouTube and Facebook. So I've been really enjoying the banter. Hey, Greg, it's been a fun.
Oh yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into some questions about the most recent teaching that we had on Sunday. But before we do, Greg, how are you doing? How's your weekend? How's your new house going? How are things?
Good. I'm kind of exhausted. It's been quite a journey this last little bit, kind of setting everything up. Not just selling a house, buying a house, helping a daughter and her husband move into another house,
Great.
But also setting up the house here for Julie to be able to do her daycare thing. So every drawer needs a lock, every door needs a lock, everything. Yeah, just a lot of stuff. Yeah. So we've got through most of it. So we're starting to feel like, you know what? It's just kind of touch-ups and cleanups now, as opposed to kind of feel. Yep. So that's good. We're glad that we're still sane and still alive, or at least I think we're sane. At least me. Yeah. Who knows? Julie obviously already is. So yeah. How about you?
It's pretty amazing. We moved up here like 5 years ago, and then we moved up 4 years ago, and then Jessica, who's your other daughter, moved up 2 years ago, and then Laura just moved up here just a couple of weeks ago. So bringing the whole family up to the Ottawa Valley.
That's all. Yeah, it's awesome. We're thrilled. We're thrilled to have family close by like this. It's just a real blessing.
Yeah. I've been good. I've been my biggest project these days is I'm trying to grow some vegetables. So I've never really done that before. So this year I'm taking as like a test year to see sun hits best on our property. Our property is like 16 feet by 6 feet. So trying, I call it my
hopefully that's the yard and not the entire property.
Yeah, that's the yard. So we put a deck on it, like just a little platform deck, and then I made out of pallets, I made some planter boxes that I think will fit like 8 good-sized vegetables. So like I think I'll do 4 tomato plants, cucumbers, and peppers, and then maybe some spinach in other little boxes. So
very nice. The cucumber plant will spill over to pretty much everything else around you.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I think you can string it up so it kind of goes upward, and then the cucumbers hang down. I don't know, something like that.
That'd be kind of cool. You could do up onto your deck close to your front door.
Something like that. So we're going to try to figure that out this year. The boys are excited to see plants growing, and we did them from seed, so we already have like all these seedlings, and they're really. It's true. The cucumbers are already like 5 inches tall, so they just grow like crazy. Eh?
Yeah. Very cool. They'll love it.
Should be fun. Yeah. So we did get into a new. You are doing a 3-week series on the book of Jude, and if like it's such an interesting book because again, it's written by the half brother of Jesus, so like Joseph and Mary's son Jude, who
Yeah,
wrote this
that's right.
book. So it's amazing that like that's my problem. My favorite piece about this book is like when he says I'm a servant of Christ, like that's a big statement to say about your brother.
Yeah,
Because first of all, you're saying, wow, like this, he's my brother, but he's also the Messiah, and I'm a servant of. Like these are just, it's really his posture is incredible. But he
yeah.
really talks about contending for your faith. So could you give us a quick, brief intro into the series, just one more time, to talk about that?
Sure. One comment that comes to mind about Jude himself that I think is so cool, like, how convinced would you have to be about the deity of your older brother? Like, think about your older brother is claiming to be God. What would you write about him? Like, uh, it, I would not be agreeing, unless something
Unless it
amazing
was
happened to
huge. Yeah.
convince me, right? And Jude is convinced. He's like, yeah, he's my older brother, but he's also the Son of God, which is incredible. What I think is so interesting about the book as a whole, one of the things is it's got such an amazing message, and it's one of the most overlooked books in the New Testament. It's got some really interesting, unique things in it, references to extra biblical writings and stuff like that, that I was kind of thinking, and I'm thinking perhaps still may come up in the banter, like, what's this whole thing about Michael arguing with Satan about the body of Moses? Like, what's the deal with all
Yeah. How does
that?
he know that? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's in there. We're probably not going to be covering that on Sunday mornings because it's not really the emphasis of the teaching series. But some really, really interesting things in there. But the whole focus of it is on the necessity of followers of Jesus not to just be along for the ride. Following Jesus is not about hopping on a raft and floating down river. And hopefully getting through the pearly gates at the end of the river. It's about
Yeah.
swimming upstream. Like the pearly gates are at the other end. You've got to you've got to be contending for the faith. You've got to know it. You've got to live it. You've got to be ready to defend it and to present it to the people around you. So it's in a lot of ways it's kind of a bit of a wake up call for people. And a reminder that, hey, even during COVID, even during lockdown, we need to be finding ways to share the message, whether it's by living it out or whether it's by sharing it with people in whatever way we can.
Mhm.
It's at the core of the message and the mission of Jesus.
Wow. So it's an incredible series. I'm so excited to get into it more and more. One of the questions that came up this week was like, if I'm pretty new to Christianity, so I just started believing in Jesus, I just kind of gave my heart to Him, just became a Christian. Uh, I'm also a people pleaser. I don't like conflict. So like I have a lot going against me in terms of fighting for the faith. So how do I contend for the faith if I'm new to Christianity? I'm a people pleaser, and I really don't like conflict. So how do you kind of, what are some practical tips for people who are maybe in that boat?
Yeah. First thing I'd say is don't feel like you've got everything against you or that you're alone in it anyway. There's a lot of people that are no longer new in the faith, but they are still people pleasers and still hate conflict. Like
Mhm.
that's so don't be surprised by those kinds of things. But it's probably the same thing that I would say to anybody else who was beginning to contend for something, who wants to become a contender, like Michael Jordan or
Mhm.
think of any top athlete. They didn't when they decided I'm going to be the best. They weren't the best. Like they had to learn the skills. They had to put in the time. They had to do the work. So what I would say to somebody who's new in the faith is find the ways to grow. Find the ways to learn. Well, what do I need to know? What do I need to do? How do I become a contender? And every day you get a little bit stronger, you get a little bit more aware, your skills grow, and give it some time and you'll be amazed at how far you can get. That's part of it. Another part of it, I would say, is that it's easy to kind of get this, and even the word contending, like I usually think like of a boxer stepping into the ring, and there's your opponent, and you're gonna like duke it out, and it's gonna be this violent, aggressive, in your face kind of experience, and that's for a lot of us. And I'm a people pleaser too. That's my default kind of mode. That's my default thing, and I have to work with that in the way I deal with contending for the faith. But the boxing match arena imagery is not the only one that fits, and sometimes it's actually counterproductive. I often think of like a marathon where it's like you don't have to put on a big show and make it, you're just running the race, and you're going to keep going, and you've learned the skills for endurance and speed and all those things in order to win the race. Like that's the goal. It's not to make to be the biggest showman or showwoman. Like it's about running the race well and becoming the best you can. So you don't have to be obnoxious.
And maybe like I think this just came to mind. Like, what about like when I was in high school, I was part of the debate club, and it was a skill they taught, like how to debate, how to really research what you're convicted about in order to contend in that arena, in the arena of like intellectual conversation and trying to persuade and debate and prove. It's not this aggressive, takes no physical effort at all. But it still is a skill you learn in how to defend what you believe in.
Yeah, totally. And that's part of the skills that we can learn, we can grow in. Part of the challenge I think that we face, and you'd mentioned like not wanting conflict, avoiding conflict, and we live in kind of this cancel culture now, right? Where if I disagree with you or you disagree with me, we're like gone, forget it. So that's something that we also have to kind of process. And I'm kind of curious what you're thinking on how we can handle kind of that aspect of it.
Well, it's a hot topic right now. Sure, I think there's some global leaders right now writing books about this type of stuff, like cancel culture, and just like it's so easy when you don't like something. Actually, my son Grayson is a perfect example. He'll play a game on the iPhone, it's too hard, and then he's only 4.5, and he'll delete it to me and say, I deleted it, I don't want that one anymore, I want a new one. And now we're at the point where it's like you've tried all the games that you're allowed to try and you don't know any of them, but and I think this is something ingrained in our culture. I haven't done a ton of research on it, but it's definitely like rising up. Like people are just becoming more and more okay with opting out and canceling my subscription when I don't need it anymore. And yet there's something to be said about commitment, and like where's the commitment in that. And so if like that cancel culture spills over into these deeper things like your personal belief in Jesus, when it starts to get hard and you just think, well, I'll just cancel, like that's not what the gospel teaches at all. And yet when it becomes more and more normal in our culture, that becomes really tempting to just say, well, this is too hard for me and I want out.
Yeah, totally. We've got to deal with that in our own spirit, in our own hearts. Contending is hard work. Like it's simple in the sense of do the work, but the work is hard. So there's that kind of a temptation to just opt out and let somebody else do it, and I'll watch them. I'll eat my popcorn and kind of watch them and kind of vicariously experience it because I'm kind of watching a show of somebody else doing it. And the other part is learning how to kind of get through those defenses. Part of it for me as well is recognizing, the people pleaser thing. You can't please everybody. Like the only way you can please everybody and avoid all conflict is to become a chameleon. Like your integrity goes out the window. What you believe no longer matters because all you care about is what they believe and keeping them happy. So for some of us, we have to kind of go back and say, what do I really believe? What's really important? What are the things that I'm not going to bend on? For me, shifting from pleasing other people to pleasing God is the most important shift. If I please God, then those that are seeking after God are going to be pleased as well. If I choose to please God, some people will be offended, but I'm going to offend somebody anyway. Don't be obnoxious, don't be rude, or all that kind of thing, but don't be surprised either.
Yeah, that was one of the things that you pointed out on the weekend too. Was Jude writes about like these people who are saying, now that you have freedom in Christ, just like go and do what you want to do and live for yourself. And that is sort of saying, okay, I take the freedom, but I'm going to cancel that Christ has authority over my life. And it's such a dangerous place to be in, where you just you just, it's very, very selfish. Yeah. So one of the other questions kind of talks, so that kind of is a great discussion we just had about our personal responsibility. But say I know other Christians who are, so in the book of Jude, he talks about people who are perverting the grace of God. So like taking the grace of God as it's understood really well and twisting it and perverting it, and how those people can be really dangerous, and they've come into the church and to the body of believers, and they're twisting the gospel and making people come astray. And so how do I, as a Christian, hold other Christians accountable so that we're not misstruing or perverting the gospel, the grace of God? Because if I'm doing that, isn't that going to bring disunity to the family of believers? Isn't that going to bring disunity to other Christians in my church family?
And isn't it some kind of form of judging other people that we're not supposed to judge? Yeah. This is another example of simple but tough.
Yeah.
It's like, but the answers are not too hard. It's not what should I do? It's like, how in the world am I going to do that? And that's challenging. How do I hold other Christians accountable? Part of it is, whether it's in your own personal life or in the body of a church family, is we've got to decide what we're actually going to build unity around. Again, this idea that if we're building unity around anybody can do and believe and think and act in any way they want, then in what's actually holding us together? It's a lack. It's an emptiness, really. And in what way is that real unity? I think the idea of unity at all costs is a falsehood. It leads to a mess. And we can see that in historical examples all over the place. So I think whether it's a church family or whether it's a person, whether it's your own family or you as a person, you need to decide what you're going to unite around, and what you're going to be accountable for. For us at Brookside, I think we could say it's the love of God, that relationship with God. It's the truth of God. And it's the mission of God. Like, if we want, if we're going to build unity around those things, that's, to me, that's what gets me pumped up in the morning. That's what makes me want to jump in. The mission of God, the truth of God, the love of God, and saying, this is what we believe. This is what we're going to stand for. At least then people can figure out whether they actually are in or out, or agree or disagree or whatever. So it helps. It kind of does two things. It'll thrill those who are committed. Those who are, they're going to be like, yay, finally, clarity. Yeah, this is what I want. Other people are going to be offended. It's like, well, I want this and I want to believe that, and I want to teach this thing over here and that over there. And they'll be offended. And, if it's, I love the old statement, you've probably heard it, in central things, unity; in peripheral things, charity; in all things, grace, or something like that. It ended with a Y. It's not quite the right word, but on the fundamentals, figure those things out. And for a church family, figure out a process for holding each other accountable and help each other do it. Individually, it's one-on-one conversation. Think about what you would do if somebody walked into your house and started breaking codes of like conduct or language that you feel is important in your family. How would you handle it? It's kind of similar, right?
Yeah, you call them out. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think sometimes I think as Christian, I've two things. I think as Christians, sometimes we don't take the concept of church being a family as literally as we ought to. We take it as a concept, kind of the family of Jesus, this whole thing. But we are actually a family, and I fought with my brother and sister like about really important things. When we were younger, we fought about silly things, but as adults, we've hashed it out about really important things and about how to treat each other, and like that's what it has done is it's brought a deeper respect for each other, and now we hold like a more similar opinion about different things in life, and that has been because we love each other and we want the best. Like, but that family and the family of God, like our church family, we should be doing kind of the same thing, where
Exactly.
like you don't want to just have everybody kind of doing their own thing, because that becomes a very disunified family and everyone's doing their own thing. And the other thing that comes to
Yeah.
mind is when I was younger, I was in a church. We went to a church which was great, but there's one, my grandfather, who's like ultra conservative um, Christian. He came to our church one time or several times, and I remember him saying specifically to me as we were like walking from our church to the car. He said, "Luke, it's a great church, but they have no doctrine. They just he's like there's nothing, there's no substance there. It's kind of like all community focused." And it was a fun and they did great things in the community, but it's true, they never really taught about these fundamental truths that they really believed in. So it's almost like now like there wouldn't have been much to really deep spiritual things to really rally around, because they didn't teach a lot of that kind of stuff. It was a lot about community and love your neighbors and this stuff, but they missed some of the meat, I think, which was just interesting that my grandfather noted that, picked up on that.
Yeah, yeah. It's so important to have that balance. Too often, either people or communities of people, churches, will swing one way or the other. Right? We're all about being doing good in the community, or we're all about doctrinal purity, and never the two get together. And to me, they're if they're not, if doctrinal purity doesn't lead you to missional community engagement, then there's something wrong with your doctrine. Like
Right.
it needs to be reviewed in light of what the Bible actually teaches, because it true biblical doctrine leads to a life on mission that
Yeah.
is sacrificial, that follows Jesus. So you I was going to say you can't have one without the other. There are a lot of organizations that do a lot of great, good things in our community that have
Yeah.
nothing to do with Jesus. But if you truly do it, are following Jesus, have strong, healthy theology, it'll lead to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's critical to have that accountability there. And one of the things I love about what you said, Lucas, is that in describing the relationship with your brother, is this idea that accountability is a loving thing.
Hmm.
It's an expression of commitment. It's not, or it does not need to be an expression of judging or an expression of canceling or an express. Too often that's kind of accountable means you're an idiot and get out of here. No, that's not biblical accountability. At least
Yeah.
what we're aiming at.
This has been fun. This is a great series, and it's one of those
Oh yeah,
ones where it's like obviously going to be so dynamic as we move along through. So thanks for that discussion.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Awesome. Next week, we're getting into what is the content of the faith.
Yeah.
Should be fun.
Which is important because you were fighting for it. You got to know what it is. Jude talks about it. So that's great. And he obviously knew it because he was the brother of Jesus. So that's great. If you're watching online with us right now, thanks for tuning in. We're thankful that you were here with us. And if you're catching this on the restream, we hope that it was helpful. I just want to mention real quick, we don't get a lot of submissions for the banter. So I would love to have some more of those come in because we value what you guys want to learn and we want to talk with you about relevant things. We can come up with questions, but it's even better if you come up with questions. Yeah. So I just want to invite you. Remember, you can text 613-519-9400. And I think that's the number. Or you can email banter@mybrookside.church. And that'd be great to hear from you guys too. So without much further ado, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
See you around. Take care.